Well, welcome back. It's Friday. Happy Friday. I'm Scott Trout, and it's TuckerAllen Live. You get that alert, and you know that TuckerAllen is live on Facebook for Fridays at 1 o'clock, same place. We're here to bring you just 10, 15 minutes of the latest topics on estate planning, and I'm joined, as usual, by Teresa Yao from our offices here in the St. Louis metro area. Welcome.
Hi, Scott.
Hey, happy Friday to you.
Thanks. Happy Friday.
Yeah. Hey, 2 weeks ago, we talked about asset protection trusts. I know we want to use that as kind of a stepping point to today, where we're talking about Medicaid look-back periods. And I know, again, we want to break it down to something a little bit more understandable for people that they want to know if they qualify and they hear about this look-back thing and what do they need to do. So generally, what is the Medicaid look-back period?
Absolutely. So when we talked about the asset protection trust, think about that as a very small piece of the Medicaid universe in which we kind of talk about estate planning. The kind of pillars of this Medicaid talk is the look-back period. And essentially what it is, it's saying there's a 60-month period or 5 years before the date of a Medicaid application where Medicaid's going to look at any transfers you made out of your assets. So gifts to grandchildren, gifts to your kids, or just any transfers, either they're compensated or uncompensated. They're going to look at the nature of that transfer and see which transfers were uncompensated and could count against you when you apply for Medicaid. If something was uncompensated, then that means you'll incur a penalty period.
So let's go back up a bit so that someone's listening, watching, think, okay, why do I care about Medicaid? And so let's talk about maybe why they'd want to get Medicaid. We've talked about long-term planning and long-term care and how costly it is. And then I want to talk about why, we want to partner with a financial advisor and work together to make that plan. So let's kind of get back to, why do they care about Medicaid?
Yeah, so I guess why are we even talking about this in the first place? Well, it's because long-term care, like you said, can be extremely costly. And a lot of times, for most people, you don't know how long you're going to need long-term care for. It might be a couple of years, or it might be, over 10 years. It could be assisted living, it could be nursing home level care. It's just kind of this unknown that a lot, and unfortunately most people have to kind of encounter, whether in their own lives or in their parents' lives at some point. And in terms of coverage or paying for those costs for long-term care, you really have limited options. So obviously you can private pay, but most people know private paying can be really, really expensive, easily thousands of dollars a month, because they get medical care in addition to lodging and food and all of that good stuff. So other options are long-term care insurance, but long-term care insurance kind of takes into it assumption that you kind of prepared well in advance enough, and long-term care insurance can be quite expensive to maintain too. So, which is why we talk about Medicaid, because Medicaid in the end is the largest provider of long-term care coverage. A lot of times when people don't have enough assets, then Medicaid's there to say, okay, you don't have enough assets, here's a Medicaid bed in this nursing home, and here's all the medical coverage that we provide. A lot of times people get Medicare and Medicaid confused. Medicare, it's not means tested like Medicaid is, but Medicare is very limited in how it provides for long-term care as well. So it's more about kind of like the 100-day rule. If you transfer directly from the hospital to a nursing home, they can cover up to a certain period, but it's not a really sustainable form of long-term care coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes such a good point. You may know someone or had a family member who kind of spent down their entire estate because they didn't plan in advance, where take advantage of the resources that the government has available to you, but it means you've got to take action. And that's this whole roll or look back period, and making sure that you can do that, because it is expensive. I mean, they charge you for Kleenex, every single Kleenex that you use. And I mean, it's thousands of dollars. And then long-term care insurance is not cheap either. And so, I mean, it's like, just bypassing something that really, with proper planning, you could take advantage of, right? And you can do it as long as you
exactly.
save
That's why
someone.
we talk about it in our practice, because there's a lot of different types of tools depending on your situation that is applicable and could help you protect some of those assets rather than having to spend down all of it in order to qualify for Medicaid coverage.
I mean, the point is you want to provide something. I mean, most people will say, hey, I want to pass down this. I want to make sure that money goes to my kids or my grandkids, or I want to create a college fund for all my grandkids. But if you don't plan, you have to spend it on your own long-term care. That whole notion, it's gone. And I watched someone do that, and they went down, to the last penny, and they had nothing. And it's sad because it just being informed, that's part of the process. And that's why we do TuckerAllen Live, and we do our virtual town halls, is to kind of educate and inform and then explore. Have a consult with you to talk about whether or not it's appropriate, because many people I think the maybe negative connotation with Medicaid is it's for people without money, but it's not, right?
Yeah, it's not, in the sense, especially when we're talking about long-term care. I think when we're talking about long-term care, the world of Medicaid really expands to a lot of people that need it. And I think, kind of back to the topic of the look-back period, this is why people are concerned about the look-back period, because people who have some assets, they want to create a college fund for their grandkids, or want to provide some means to kind of pass things down as they're getting up in those years. But all those good intentions could really put them at risk of, kind of cutting themselves short for long-term care coverage to Medicaid.
So cost, I mean, that's the thing. People think, well, I'm sure it's just too expensive, but what you invest in planning appropriately is what you'd spend in 1 month maybe for long-term care.
Yeah, or maybe less than 1 month. It really depends. For most nursing homes, I think in Missouri, the average cost of a nursing home is $6,000 something a month.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, it costs quite a lot.
Yeah, and you think about the investment. Okay, you spend 1 month rather than spending down, I don't know how long you'll be in long-term care. My grandmother was in for 4 years. So take that times 48 months, and there goes all the estate, which she didn't do the proper planning.
I wasn't really avoiding it, but I'm pretty good at procrastinating. I needed a trust. When I found TuckerAllen, all our questions were answered, all of our fears allayed. You want your wishes in place, so there's no guessing, no stress on the children. Basically, they talk about what you need, what's important to you. It was more conversational, really very simple.
I mean, that's the point, is if you think about it, it's worth the conversation. And let's do the cost benefit. Like in anything that you do, you weigh it. And, is it worth me spending the money up front? And then you have peace of mind. Now you're taken care of from the Medicaid side. Now your heirs are taken care of because you've done everything you want. And that's the beautiful part. And working with a financial advisor, I think that's key too, right? Because when you talk about what does your estate planning look like? So we were meeting with someone and we said, look, we want to partner and bring you in, and let's talk about what makes sense so we can qualify perhaps for Medicaid long-term, right? So what does estate planning look like?
So with estate planning for Medicaid long-term coverage, really I think about it in 2 categories: pre-planning and kind of crisis planning. Pre-planning is kind of what we touched on a couple of weeks ago with the Asset Protection Trust. I don't know if our viewers remember, but I kind of described it as a lockbox. So when you have a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, it's irrevocable. But the biggest benefit is if you can put something into this lockbox outside of that 5-year look-back period. So if you can wait 5 years before needing to apply for Medicaid for long-term care, then anything you put in this lockbox is preserved for your beneficiaries. So that's a huge tool. So ideally, you can put the majority of your estate into this lockbox, and then just keep whatever you need to sustain quality of life, standard of living in a revocable trust. And then everything in this lockbox, you wait 5 years, and then it can be preserved for your beneficiaries. And that's a huge form of asset preservation for your heirs. And then we talk about crisis planning. And unfortunately, I think most people who come into our office who are asking about Medicaid are normally kind of a little too late, which is really unfortunate, which is why we really want people to know about the pre-planning tools like the Asset Protection Trust, right? But it's not too late. It's not saying that you don't have any options. It's just that you might not be able to preserve as many assets as, the pre-planning option. For crisis planning, there are tools like caregiver agreements. Like if you are an adult child caring for a parent and that parent might need long-term care down the road, a smart way of spending down assets is saying, hey, I'm the adult child caregiver. Can I get paid for my services so that mom's money can go to me? And in that way, it's still being passed down to your kids, because that's normally why people do the asset protection trust or want to preserve the assets anyways. In that way, those transfers to your adult child caregivers are compensated, and that's why Medicaid won't count it against you.
So when you're planning, and I'm thinking about the individuals that may be younger, I don't know, 40s, 50s, and they think they have, 20, 30, 40 years to go. The point is there an age point where you think it's not wise to begin planning in that regard? Or can you balance keeping assets to use and during your lifetime? That's the point. Is I want to know if someone's watching and think, oh, I'm too young for that. Is there too young for that?
So the latter part of your, the second choice is true. So no, there is no too young for it. Yes, younger clients who come in, they're probably like, not a concern. We'll deal with that later. But it's not like you can't do it. And honestly, it's probably better to add it into your toolkit, because I mentioned this last time, when we create an asset protection trust, that irrevocable trust, we always create a revocable trust too. And all the other documents like the pour over wills, the powers of attorney, but that's a separate, it's all under one package. But when you have this lockbox as part of your toolkit, even if you're like 30 years old and you're like long-term care is like 60 years, 50 years down the line, you can it's nice to know that you have this mechanism. And anytime you kind of start worrying, you never know when a random diagnosis might come in. At that point, you already have this tool, and all you have to do is make some transfers into the irrevocable trust.
Right. And that's where even during COVID, we're 12 months now, and that should bring to light a lot of this. Who knows? Maybe you get sick and it requires something, a transition, but maybe you make it through. But I think that's we always look at this pandemic or anything that has a negative connotation with it. We try to make a positive, and that is trying to get the message out is, hey, let's plan. Let's learn from what's happened. And I think, anyone, like as you suggest, it could be 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, have that conversation. Let's see if it's too late. Let's see if it's perfect timing, and decide what is the right fit for you when it comes to estate planning. That's why it's not when you think of estate planning, it's not a one size form. Here you go. They're out there. Those forms don't work. And from my perspective, because they are a one size that doesn't fit. Like I'm a size 12 and I'm putting on a size 10 shoe. So that's why I think, it's important for people that are watching that if you don't have 5 years to go, let's talk. If you have plenty of 5 years to go, let's talk. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about know your options. Even if you're 30 years old, it's good for you to know about this irrevocable trust, just so you can keep it on your radar. Even if you don't want to do it right now and you just want to do a revocable trust package, you can add the irrevocable trust, a little later, whenever you feel ready for it. But it's important to know. So
it's a conversation that goes with regular estate planning, right? This isn't just a particular thing where someone's thinking, well, I need a trust and a will. I don't need this whole Medicaid Look-back thing, irrevocable trust, right? This is part of the normal conversation of your entire package, right? Yeah, I know a lot of times in our practice we say estate planning and elder law, and this tends to be grouped under elder law, but honestly, a lot of the elder law things, it's only called that because it's more often associated with that age group, but it's actually applicable for all age groups. So it's also applicable, right? Make sure I understand. If someone's already done the planning and it's, 10 years, 15, whatever years ago, and they're getting to the point where they think they may need long-term care, they can come in, have a conversation, and make some adjustments in order to avoid this look-back period, right? Yes, and actually that would be the preferred course of action. Do something about it. I want you to monitor with your trust, regular trust, 10, 15 years down the road, maybe long-term care isn't like a concern down the line. Come in, please, talk about it. Yeah, talk is worth it. A conversation, don't have to do anything but learn and understand what your options are. And I think that's the best thing. So, all right, Teresa, thanks. That's always good. And try to break it down. And I throw you questions that try to, from the perspective of, I don't know what you're talking about. So hopefully everyone else watching also gets it too. So thanks for joining. And then we'll look forward to seeing you next Friday, as always, at 1 o'clock. But keep in mind, check out TuckerAllen.com. You can schedule a consult with Teresa or the other attorneys at TuckerAllen by going to the website. You can schedule that right on the website itself. And always know you can have a consult via Zoom, via telephone, FaceTime, whatever it is. You can come in if you feel it's safe and appropriate for you in any of the offices that we have in Illinois, St. Louis, and the Kansas City metro area. So we look forward to seeing you next Friday, and then look for our virtual town hall that will occur in March. I want you to sign up so you can log in and ask questions live and get answers from the panel of TuckerAllen attorneys. So look forward to that. And until next time, have a great week.